Racism is inbuilt in America. It is impossible even for me as a black person to say that I did not become a racist. I feel I've improved now. But I'm just thinking about it because if I saw a group of black boys, teenagers, coming in my direction, my mind would say immediately, what's going on here? Where's my handbag? Maybe I better look more alert as if I'm in tune. But if I were to see the same group of white fellas, teens, coming, I would have thought nothing of it. So I asked myself now, where did that come from? Especially for you who were reared under segregation. Black here, white there. Why do you feel something about the group of young black boys that you do not feel about the group of white teens? Then it dawned upon me. All the schools I had gone to, I had been instructed from a white perspective. Everything I had perhaps been indulged in was from a white perspective. I have 50-some credits in literature. Only one was assigned, and that was the famous one. God, my memory is playing tricks with me. Maybe it'll come back. But out of all that literature that I read, only one was written by a black author. That meant that everything that was informing me for most of my life was the white perspective. And if you think about it, it has been true and is still obviously true in America. When that boy killed, those two boys killed those people at that marathon there in New York, I said to Kent, Reverend Matthias, I said, where is the love? We had that youngster, since he was obviously a young person, but still he was able to let his older brother, and I suspect that's what happened, impress him sufficiently for him to participate in that Boston Marathon. There is something missing. It's not just the home. I think it's in our media. I think it's in our surroundings. I think when we see black, we don't always see human. I was so astounded. I was reared in Charleston, South Carolina, where that killing took place recently. I was so astounded when that man was 21 years old. Not 40, not 50, not a Klansman. I asked myself, here's a kid, 21 years old, and he has that much still in him.
Well, let me just comment about the church and your feelings and thoughts. Did you find that when you were first became involved in USG that you were able to express and share and were people like-minded in their thinking here? Or what do you remember about the racial climate in particular?
First off,
and I understand this is in the 90s, correct?
I came in the early 90s.
Early 90s.
I think I was well received, but there's one remark. I laugh at it now. I was being introduced after church to various persons. So one young woman came over to me. She says, Miss Hankins, I said, yes. I know you're going to join our choir. I said, well, not particularly. I may speak well enough, but no one has ever accused me of singing. Oh, she says, everybody can sing. All of you can sing. Then it dawned upon me what she was actually saying. Because I was black, I could sing. And I stopped and I looked at her and I smiled. She still didn't understand what she had said. And then I said to myself, now stop it. she cannot be accountable for what she really does not know. She really does think that most blacks can sing. That's not really her fault, because that's part of what is sponsored and suggested. And no one actually comes up to you and says, blacks can sing, or watch your hand back. No one actually says that to you. It's the environment of this country. When we stopped talking about race in the 60s, I remember the day Dr. King was killed. I was in a bar in Center City, and I was speaking to this fellow from Mississippi. And I was telling him about this Mississippi, and he was telling me about the North, and we were going back and forth. He says, I'm about to miss my train. I've got to go. I didn't know his name. He didn't know mine. I knew a lot about Mississippi. He knew a lot about blacks. And then I looked up, and he was coming back in. And you couldn't hear anything because of the noise. But he was coming back to me. I said, oh God, he must have forgotten his wallet or something. I started looking around. He came up to me. I was on this high stool. He came up to me, and he began to embrace me this way. I looked down and saw his hands around my waist. I said, now wait a minute. Then people began to burst into the bar, screaming, hollering, and crying. And he was speaking in my ears. He said to me, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to figure out the noise there. I'm trying to look him up. Finally, someone yanked out the machine, and I heard it. King is dead. King is dead. And he was whispering with tears running down his face. He says, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And it dawned upon me, I will always be happy that that was happy hour and I had been drinking, because I probably would have lost my mind. But it dawned upon me, here's a white Southerner from Mississippi. He's crying and I'm crying, and he's holding me and patting me, telling me how sorry he is. I've forgotten a lot of things, but I had not forgotten that. So when that woman was telling me about coming to the choir and singing and whatnot, I had to excuse her to understand what had influenced her to say that to me. So that when we were working on some of the priorities that we wanted to start here at the church, we wanted to give everyone an opportunity to have an environment where you can speak. Because I cannot dictate what you will say. You cannot dictate what I will say. We will speak out of our experiences. So I might say something that is offensive, not knowingly, and you may say something that is offensive, not knowingly. But what we wanted to create was an environment in this church that permitted a person to make a verbal faux pas, a mistake, and not say. And that's what we had hoped.
And how successful do you think you were?
I think we were rather successful, because the first one we had here at the church, I think it was Jubilee, people actually admitted to each other that one of the reasons they were not addressing racism in any specific way was because they didn't know how or what to say, and they didn't want anyone to become angry with them. And I began to think about what one lady in particular was saying. I mean, if you're in a white environment and so forth and so on, and no one there is particularly teaching you any language preference, I mean, so how easy is it to express yourself to a black person? Now, maybe it would have been easier with me because we were all in the same little circle, sharing and whatnot. But I understood what she was saying. She wanted to make comment about a number of things. But how do you, when your teaching or your experience has been that what one black is guilty of, maybe all blacks are. Now, you don't have that problem with whites. One white over here may steal something, but you don't assume the whole classroom or the whole group are thieves, and yet that is easily perceived when we are referring to blacks. I'm guilty of it, and that's how I know that it's possible for whites to be guilty of it. It's just the type of environment that we have in America. But I think if we could just get them to understand, like when I meet my friends or whatever, and they say, "You're going to," I say, "Yeah, why don't you come? Why don't you come and be with me one Sunday?" "You're kidding." I said, "No, I'm not kidding. Just come and tell me what you think about it, okay? Don't ask me, come and tell me what you think about it." And the ones I have brought, they've been much impressed. Because the people who were here when I came. They were just good-natured, down-to-earth people wanting to be loved, shared, embraced by those of similar position and thought. Like one of the things I noticed, I used to run Coffee and Conversation. That was a morning program we had here with various speakers. I was reprimanding someone about something. Somebody gave me a light elbow, and I said, "Excuse me." They said, "Don't talk to the judge that way." I said, "Where's..." They said, I still don't know what they're talking about, because I just finished saying to someone, "No, we don't want to say that, because that would discourage him from speaking, and we want to hear what he's going to say. Even if we might be a little disturbed by it, we want to hear. That's why he was invited. So now please, be still." And I went on talking. Well, I didn't realize until after Coffee and Conversation was over that the person I was reprimanding and saying, "Be still," was a judge. But that's what I like about it. You're not Judge so-and-so, Miss so-and-so. You're Susan, I'm Betty, I'm Hankins, you know. Doesn't matter what it is we really do. We are here together because we have something we want to share, and we have something we believe in, and we're trying to make it a better environment. Like we wanted to make this an anti-racist congregation. Not to be perfect, but to be aware. No one can be perfect. We live in America. If you live in America, certain things happen to you. So, I mean, you might make a little slip and say something you know you shouldn't say, but hey, that's the way it is. Isn't that the way friends are? Yeah. Friends make mistakes. We apologize. We keep on going because we didn't mean to hurt your feelings. And you knew and you know that I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. And that was the type of environment we wanted to create here in USG. And I think with that group, I haven't been around lately with the new ones. I see a lot of young faces with kids, people I guess in their 30s. But I think we were making a good impression on them.
Was Coffee and Conversation an Ending Racism program?
No, it was something that was here when I came. Tom, whatever, was running it. And he decided he wanted to retire. I don't think he's feeling well. And he says to me, "Miss Hankins, I've got a job for you." He says, "How would you like the head Coffee and Conversation?" I said, no. Oh, he says, "You're going to do a good job."
Yeah. So do you remember programming that came out of Ending Racism during your
Seemed
time?
like we participated in the Kwanzaa. We were part of the Kwanzaa service. And seemed like we had our own little services. I'm trying to remember. Also, we provided books. Seemed like one was soul work and another one was lies my teacher told me. We would have book discussions. We would offer the books, people would buy them. Then we would have discussions at certain times on the various topics. And in that way, we were able to stimulate ongoing conversation. Because it seemed like we had several books. We were trying to establish, was looking around here to see if we left our books in here. I don't remember now. we tried to establish a little library so that, later on, if you couldn't afford it or if you were trying to refer to something, you could come and borrow that book and read it and share it. And so those were the type of little things we were doing. Also, we tried to establish a relationship with restoration. And we had hoped to establish one with the church there in Center City. I don't think we were successful in that, but I believe we did have a service down there. But that was the idea, to reach out and to be open. You see, you cannot correct a situation if it has no name. It has a name, you call it by its name, and then you get involved with it. And that's what we were trying to do here. Yes, ending racism. Yes, some people are saying nigger. We don't want to hear that word. Yes, you think so-and-so, but maybe you want to rethink that. That's what we were trying to do, stimulate dialogue. And I think we were making good progress.
Yeah. I'm curious, you talked about the growth, that in yourself. You talked about recognizing your own racist thoughts, which at times would help you to maybe be more compassionate towards maybe a white person who might. Okay. So along those lines, were there other ways in which you grew from being a part of the Ending Racism Committee here at USG that you want to reflect on?
Well,
ways in which you have grown or changed?
I think what might have happened, what has happened, I begin to see whites in a different light. As I tell you, as a child, there were signs, black, white. For instance, when I was in college, I thought whites were smarter than blacks. It took a poli-sci class of 100 students saying, I don't know that, but to have me to understand that that was not true. Well, in that same way, I think as I began to relate to people here in this church on a personal level, I began to see them as human beings. And when you see people as human beings, they cry, they're sad, they're happy, they're nasty, they're self-indulgent. But I mean, it's not because they're a member of that race. It's because they're human beings and we have individual differences. And I think I began to understand that. And I think that began to help me review in my mind various experiences that I've had. Like my friend, I think I've mentioned her to you. She came along. I didn't know any white people personally, friendly contacts. The year that Dr. King was killed, I almost lost my mind. She came along one day, a friend introduced her. I'd heard about off and on for years. But she came in, and I actually met this person I'd been hearing about. I knew she was white, but then as I got to know her, I knew her not as a white person, but as a human being. And I took that experience because I was the head department chairperson of the English department. And there were only 2 black people in that department, myself and another young lady. And there were about 30-some folk. It helped me to relate better to my teachers. Because when they would come into me about this and that, the other, I would sit and think to myself, white, you're white. Everything should be going your way. But I was not communicating with the actual concern that this white human being had that was concerning her. I was just thinking as she was talking, too bad. Isn't that unfortunate? But when I began to get the difference between white and another human being, then I began to understand some of their complaints that, like one little teacher was telling me, My drawer is the middle drawer, and he keeps putting his stuff in my drawer. I'm thinking to myself, you've got a whole desk there, so what does it matter if he puts something? Then it dawned upon me, that's her drawer. He's not supposed even to put a pencil in it, and she's concerned. So I said to her, I shall speak to him about it. And when I was speaking to him, he said, Miss Hankins, you're not serious, are you? I said, of course I'm serious. That's her drawer, keep your fingers out. But I remember the time, I would have thought it was silly. And I think that when I came here and I had more adult type of experiences, I could hear what they were saying from an adult perspective. Not just as a white speaking about whatever. But this individual is concerned. Like I said, I was able to forgive that lady for insisting that I join the choir. I knew that that was coming from. I remember the time I would have known. And I think that's what we as a committee, Ending Racism Committee, was helping the congregation here to get a finer understanding of those type things. And I think that's where it really begins. Like that young man sat with those people 1 hour before he decided to kill them. He sat in their company for 1 hour because they were not human beings to him. Had he perceived them as human beings, I don't think he'd have been able to do that. They were just black. And I think that's it. We're not perfect, but we have to see each other as being connected because as human beings we are.
So recognizing that this is the 150th anniversary and we need to look to the future, do you have any recommendations for USG?
Start with the young. I've not participated in any of the classes that they have here for young people. But if they don't have it already, I don't know that they don't have it. But if they don't, they should have it, so that the young people can understand. You know, that's as far as I'm concerned.
Clarify classes. You said classes.
I think they need to understand, and maybe this is not true for this generation, I'm wondering. They need to understand there's no real difference between that little black fella and myself. He may look different, somebody's painted him differently, but I mean, he cries about the same things I cry about. He's afraid of the same things I'm afraid of. I was just getting ready to remember something, and it went away from my mind so quickly. Because a woman said, and I don't know if you were there or not, she said she had this little black girlfriend, and they would meet at the bus stop or something. This little girl mother sent her a muffin or something, and her mother was standing there. The white girl's mother was standing there when this little black girl gave her this muffin. And she said they were talking, laughing, chatting, but she saw her mother throw this little girl's muffin in the trash. She didn't say anything about it, but she just threw it in the trash. And she says, I think that was the first time I realized there's something wrong with black people. I just think we need to get to the basic realities that we are all connected. Doesn't matter that I'm Catholic, or that I'm black, or that I'm Jewish, whatever. We are all connected. When I hurt you, I'm hurting myself. And somehow or other we need to be able to convey that. And I think if we are not doing it in our schools, our classes for our young kids, I think we need to think of a way to do it. I think it needs to be taught publicly too, but I'm sure it'll be 100 years to getting there. Because see, that boy could not have killed those people if he'd understood. These are human beings I'm shooting. He reloaded his gun 3 times. But he was with them for 1 hour before he did that. And I'm also concerned about that Boston business and that boy participating in his older brother, killing all those people. See, it has to be something, and I don't know where we begin, but I think our church has a better opportunity to do it because we're out there. We're saying what we stand for. We're saying we acknowledge there is goodness from every major religion, good thoughts and ideas and whatnot. I think there ought to be a way to teach it on a very basic level. In our public schools, if we can, what course would we call it? Because we're so, if you mention race and makeup, it's real. And we need to deal with it as a real topic. The book says here something about lies my teacher told me. When you read that book, it will blow your mind. And I sat there thinking to myself, my God. But I think we have the best opportunity here because we are more open. See, when you're open, you can share, you can accept, you can wonder, you can doubt, you can ask a question. And we need more of that. How's a kid going to learn the difference between whatever, if he can't ask a question or he's afraid to ask a question? The way you find out is that you don't want me to call you nigger. Why don't you want me to call you nigger?
They use nigger in rap songs. So what's wrong with it? Let's close. Any final thoughts you'd like to share?
I'm glad I discovered in my 50s that there was USG. I'm glad they gave me the opportunity to serve in any number of capacities. I was on the board. I was on the ministerial committee. I was on the board of, what was the...
RE?
The one that they closed, the retirement house that they closed.
Oh, yeah.
What was it?
Priestley.
Was it?
The Priestley House.
Joseph Priestley House?
The one we had for retired.
Yeah, the Joseph Priestley House.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was on that board, and it's just been a wonderful experience to know that there are congregations that are open, relaxed. See, like I tell you, in a lot of these churches, Sunday is the golden day. The rest doesn't count. But the people I have met here, the whole time that I have been here, they've been the same folk. Now, it didn't mean they were perfect or they made no mistakes, but we were all open about it. We were all sharing. And nobody has a problem saying, oh, I'm sorry. And I like that. Because after all, we're human beings. And I think USG, Unitarianism, has a great proclivity or an opportunity to do that type of sharing. Now, I would like to wonder how we could reach out in the community, but other than some type of program that would cause them to have to come in and experience it for themselves. Because I was right across the street there at that apartment house before they tore it down. But when I saw the name of the church, I wonder, what is that over there? Because it doesn't say church, you know. I wonder, what is that over there? It took me, almost 10 years to get in here to check it out one Sunday. So the mayor, and I said that to somebody, maybe we ought to add church to you. They looked at me like, Miss Hankins, come on. But you see, that's going to keep black folks out. Because now if you say church now, okay, maybe it's Baptist or maybe it's Presbyterian, but at least I know that's a church, you understand?
So you're suggesting the name Unitarian Society of Germantown without Unitarian Society Germantown Church, you know? Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, I said that to somebody. I might have said it in a board meeting. They, Miss Hankins. I'm sure I was a trial to them the entire time I was there. But really, in terms of black folk, they immediately go, well, no.
It's not for me.
No, not even out of curiosity, you know. But I determined to come because that's where my mind is built. I'm curious. Yeah. So I decided to come, and I was fortunate enough that particular Sunday, the eloquent Dr. Gardner was speaking.
Yeah.
It's just magical.
Yeah. Thank you.
I have a question.
Oh.
As far as what I've learned about this committee, making plans into the next year and maybe having a series on anti-racism, like a discussion group, just as you're saying, it seemed to make sense to try to get people from the general community to come in. A friend of mine, after the Charleston murders, was saying, well, why don't you guys go down to some black church instead of just commiserating in your own place? Why don't you get down to some black church and really show them your support? And I kind of scratched my head and said, yeah, but then I wouldn't feel quite right just walking into their place.
They would be very leery now.
Yeah, yeah. But also on the other side, like if USG wants to do an anti-racism effort, and it's going to be beyond just the members of the inside members of the congregation, how do you get more people to come in? What congregations could USG go to?
Good question.
To bring in perhaps like a Baptist congregation or African Methodist Episcopal Church.
Well, we both owned Star Island United Church of Christ, UCC, and USG, so we know each other that way. I don't know where there's a UCC church around here. That's Brock's church, United Church of Christ. I don't know, but you know, it's interesting because anybody who is here, you know, can certainly believe Christ is divine.
Well, see,
no one is going to tell you that you can't believe
that's
that.
the part they don't know,
they
though,
don't know
until
that,
they
though.
get here, that you
Right.
can be whoever you
can
are
be
and think
that
whatever
whole-
you think.
yeah.
They don't know that.
Yeah. They also want doctrine. I mean, there's just a certain element,
Wants to be told.
wants to be told, and not that there's anything wrong with that. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't sit right.
Well, we're not even talking about getting them involved in the doctrine or the membership of the church, but just if it's an anti-racism effort.
To get them to come in.
And you're looking to get the members of this congregation to deal with anti-racism. Well, how many blacks are in the church? Not that many.
Not that many.
So where do we get the feedback?
And they're sort of dying
But
out, I have
what
noticed.
I'm hearing from Betty, though, isn't necessarily anything USG is or isn't doing. It's culturally a difference.
Yeah.
And the fact that we are a society, just conceptually doesn't make sense to people. You know, like we're not a church. We look like a church, but we don't say we're a church, so it's just too confusing. But we do have MLK Day, and we do a great job of doing outreach in the community. You see a lot of different folks here on MLK Day.
On that particular
But I
day.
don't think we really explain what we're all about. I mean, everybody kind of does their service, comes in here and gets a snack. And that's a ripe opportunity maybe to talk about
To
Unitarian
share.
Universalism or just, and I try to do that at the table, but it feels awkward. You know, I do. I say, would you like to know a little bit of, I used to say, I ask them, do you want to know? You know, and of course, like, there are people that will say, yeah. And then that's my little window. But, you know, how many people are really being told anything about, you know, I think even at being a Unitarian Universalist, we're taught not to talk about ourselves. We're not
It started in
evangelical.
the, yeah,
Like
that's
we
right.
have to have conversations about the elevator speech. Like, what are you going to say when someone says, "Well, what does it mean to be a you anyway?" Like we're all like, you know, like. So it's complicated on a lot of different levels. It is, but it's the only place I have found in our society where I can come in and talk about racism. I can't go and do that anywhere else unless you're in the classroom. I can't think of any other place I can really go to do this. On the soccer fields, like where am I going to do this? You know, in a bar, you end up getting in an argument. Like I've tried to talk about race in a bar; it does not work. You know, it's really one of the only places I have ever found to do this, to talk about race. So
Now you know, however, this year may be a good year.
Yes,
Because of what happened in
Yes.
Charleston and the speech
Yes.
that Obama gave at that
Yes.
particular funeral, that
Yes.
this may be a good time to get started,
Yes.
because we have to become more open. So maybe this year people will begin to wonder, I mean, where does a 21-year-old person get that from? See, if he were 50 or 40, but where does someone 21 years old?
I can't help but think you get it from your family, your parents. I don't know anything about these people, but I think that's can be a potential way in which hatred is shared, right? Is taught at
Yes,
the home.
yes. It doesn't just happen.
No.
Like I tell you, race was never discussed in my house. They would focus on your manners, if so-and-so speaking, or if I give you but they never said, be careful of whites, don't do this. They never said. And it seemed so strange to me. There was a school right across the street, a couple of blocks. I wanted to go to that school because in order to go to the school I went to, I had to get up like 5 o'clock in the morning because we had to be there from 7:30 to 12:30. The little kids, you know. But there was a big school. Why can't I go? Nobody ever said to me, that's a white school. Mm-hmm. Your school is. But no one said those things, you understand?
You had to like just absorb it and be confused.
Yeah.
You know. Well, I'm going to make sure the camera gets a picture of me giving Betty a hug. Thank you so much. You were so wonderful.
Oh.
Betty was my mentor. You were truly my mentor.
Really?
When I came here. Yes, you were. You're the one that got me into the Ending Racism Committee. You were my mentor.
Wasn't that wonderful?
Mm-hmm. Talked me into chairing it, you know, after Amy and...
Right.
Yeah.
I still can't remember that young lady's name.
Oh, I know.
Gosh, and it makes me so angry. That's one of the penalties of age. Can't remember her name.
Which one was that?
She was the director of education, young people's education program when I came here.
Marguerite Lovett.
What was her name?
Marguerite Lovett. There was Nina Gray, Marguerite Lovett.
Jude.
Jude. Yeah, Jude.
No, that's young group. I'm talking about she was there, was it 95, 96, and she had to leave because she had to go take care of her parents out in the Midwest somewhere. Because we took our training together. She was there that night I'm talking about.
Somebody's got to remember.
She was there that night.
Somebody's got to remember.
We will never forget that night. I'm sure she won't forget it and I won't forget it.
I think Jeff wants to join the Ending Racism Committee. That's what I think.
Well, I'm involved in it. I'm involved in it as much as I am.
Doing this for us,
Yeah.
for sure. So,
Gosh,
trying to
Hankins,
remember
come
that
on.
name.
The lady, she does work, is it UN business? UN program?
Oh, Marietta Tanner.
Where is she?
She's here.
She's here.
She's leaving to DC though.
I
They're
heard
having a
that.
goodbye party for
Yes.
her.
But now that committee that she used to be on,
Social Justice Committee.
Social Justice
Social
Committee,
Justice
yes. Because somebody
not
was telling us,
exactly-
why did we want to have ending racism when we had social justice?
I think that maybe social justice was too broad and we felt like
And we wanted to focus in on
Right.
racism.
Right.
That's what happened.
But there's little subtle things that are odd. Like if you look at our bulletin,
Mm-hmm.
like it lists all the social justice activities like under one section, and then ending racism is like a separate section.
They made it that way. They insisted upon that was when before we got all this started, that was one of the big things. We have social justice, so we don't need ending racism. Well, that's how that all
So we wanted to
Yeah.
define
Uh-huh.
and have our own identity.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can sometimes happen, you know. There's
Now
no
we're
question.
getting more young black families here.
There are, but they're not involved with ending racism. They're just not.
Well, they don't think it's a race problem. You speak to many young blacks. In fact, my northern friends, when I came up here, they didn't understand why I was making such an issue. I said, well, now you're telling me you don't have a problem. I said, at 13th and Norris in the summertime, all I see are black faces. Thousands of blacks in one block. Not one white face. You don't think that's a problem? Oh, well, that's the way it is at 13th and Norris. You have to go. I said, why should I have to go anywhere? This is north. You said, come north, I'm north. Now, where's the only difference I saw was when I went to school. I had white teachers. I never had white teachers before. Never. But that was basically the only difference I really saw. I had white teachers. But the rest of it, I didn't see any signs black or white, but the rest of it.
Well, I know I have grown because I've got a brother-in-law that is very difficult to talk with on racial issues.
Notice how you phrase that. Very difficult.
Very difficult. And I got into it a couple weekends ago, and like normally it would terrorize me to have a conversation about race. It was about the Confederate flag. And I held my ground. I mean, I was steaming, but I didn't.
You were able to communicate.
Yeah, I got it out. And in the end, I was just like David. I said, I said, it's still an issue because here we are talking about it.
And it shouldn't be.
And it shouldn't be. It's like, if it wasn't an issue, if it still wasn't an issue, then we wouldn't be talking
There would be no
about it.
discussion.
But here we are talking about it. So, there's still work to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, that's helped me a lot, or I'm much more comfortable talking with people that disagree with me.
We can
racial
agree to
matters.
disagree.
Like that Confederate flag, he's not even from the South. I don't even know why he feels the need to talk about it. He said that he felt that it didn't need to be on the grounds,
Of the Capitol.
of the Capitol, but that people, he didn't like the way in which people who were choosing to fly the flag, like in their own home, were being, shunned. And I guess maybe people were throwing rocks at them,
That's a little extreme.
Yeah, but, it's like, maybe that's just the culture making a shift. People aren't going to be, as tolerant
As they have been in
as
the
they
past.
have been, or they've just ignored it, the fact that someone has a Confederate flag. Now someone is going to dialogue with people. Why do you have that on your truck? Why do you have that? Okay, legally you can have it. The government can't come and confiscate it. But I'm going to let you know that it bothers me. Like, I think that's what has shifted. And he thinks that's wrong, that people shouldn't be bullied into taking their flag down.
Oh, really?
I know. Oh, well.
So what does he think my life has been like all this time?
They have their constitution, and I mean, if they feel that strongly about their flag, then they'll just have to put up with all.
Then
the
they're going to have to
aggravation.
put up with it. Yeah, I mean, it's not against the law to have a Confederate flag. Nobody is saying our government is now said that you can't hang a Confederate flag anywhere, right? It's not against the law. They're just removing it from government property. But I don't think it's right that they're, bullying people to take down their flags. And I'm like, hey, people want to speak up now. Maybe they never did in the past. But I did. I actually
Well, they
had a
didn't really
conversation.
think it would encourage someone to go out and kill 9 helpless people. See, they never really thought about it in that way before, and the fact that he used that as a part of his show that he had, what is it, Facebook or something? I mean, it made people rethink.
Yeah, well, it was something like a prom. It was prom night, and they were all standing there with their people with their dates, and they're all dressed up, and they're all holding a Confederate flag, and then they posted on Facebook, and people had a problem with that, and then it made the national news. I think it's a good thing. If they still
have to
want
wake up.
hold on to that Confederate flag after prom, they can still do it. But people are
you
going to
just
say
look-
things now.
Just look at the way they're treating Obama. The week was it after Obama was elected, who was that man who said he will not have any legacy? One of either was the
Jerry
senator,
Falwell?
one of
Something
them,
like
it was either in the House or the Senate. And I watched them over the years. And I think they've forgotten something. We Americans pay their salaries and provide their benefits. Their main job down there is not to kick Obama's behind,
Represent us.
but to represent the American people and do what is best for America. They've completely forgotten who they're working for. They're working for us, okay? And every time I hear I said, wait a minute now. Maybe you don't like Obama. Okay. I didn't like Bush. Okay. But all of you are hired and paid for by us.
It's true.
So that should be your first priority. What is good for America?
What's good for America?
Yeah.
Well, he's kicking butt here at the end, so that's a good thing.
Well, they're not pleased about that. The only reason they don't kill him is because, you remember when he was in there that first year, they gave him the
Because
Nobel.
of Joe Biden, that's what my husband would
Uh,
say.
Somebody else said that they don't want.
Best protection.
They don't want Biden.
They don't want Biden in there.
And they said, well, what has he done for peace? So and so and so. What has he done?
That was pretty early.
I said, you know what? It's symbolic. It's not what he has done.
Yeah.
He represents a change of heart and mind in America. And they are saying, we're complimenting you, America. Which in the same
That's a
way,
good point. That's a good point.
if they kill Obama, America's going to catch more hell than she's ever caught before from the Western world. That's why they don't kill him. But they said
You're talking
maybe,
like Europe?
yeah, they saying maybe we can't kill you, but we're going to make sure. What do they say, that you have no legacy?
That's never going to happen.
But it just, you know.
Just the fact that he's the first black president is a legacy.
Well, now,
I mean,
that-
you want to be more than that, but
Well, wait a minute. That fight has been interesting. But you know they're waiting for Hillary. Now, a lot of people think it's because she's a Clinton. Well, that sounds good. But America does not want a woman in charge. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? Her name can be Susan Betty. They do not want a woman in charge. Now, the fact that she's Clinton's wife and whatnot, okay, so now we got something to work with, right? Mm-hmm. But they do not want a woman in charge. Just shows I'm sitting here.
well, when he was elected, my gut feeling was they just didn't want a black man
Exactly.
to solve the problem.
Exactly.
Didn't want to be credited with it.
No, they didn't want him in the White House.
They didn't, but there were a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm. Somebody,
They didn't want him to be the one to fix them. Because
Somebody
that
said
meant
to
a
me-
black man is worth something.
someone said to me, Hankins, watch it. Something's going to happen to the White House once Obama leaves, and they're going to have
Yeah,
to
turn
do
rainbow.
some. They're going to have to do some remodeling, because watch it. As soon as that black family leaves the White House,
Oh my God! They're gonna
I said, "Oh, don't say that."
clean
Said
it
now,
out.
said now, just
Oh
keep your
my
eyes
God.
and ears open.
Oh
Something
my
is going to
God.
happen so drastic that they're going
They're gonna have to
do
move
some.
it. But did you guys see that when they had the floodlights of the rainbow on the they had it on the castle at Disney World, But I
missed
saw that it just flashed up on the screen, and there was the White House all in rainbow colors after the LGBT, the Marriage Equality Act.
Yeah.
I was like, where am I? What planet am I on? I couldn't believe that. I don't think it was up there for very long, but
These have been
I'm surprised it's not
extraordinary.
even on the
Long
cover.
enough to be photographed.
These have been
Yeah.
extraordinary years
Yeah.
that we have seen. I've seen things, same-sex marriage legalized,
It's-
black president. I mean,
Yeah.
in my lifetime,
States legalizing marijuana, maybe not all, but even a few. Who'd ever think that would happen? Somebody was saying that the, wherever it's manufactured outside the country, like so many of those plants now are just shut down because they're growing it here legally.
the money we
so-
spent on trying to stop drugs, the
Oh,
money we
don't
should be
even get
putting on
started.
rehab centers, because the minute you tell somebody he can't do something, he wants to do it. What was that, prohibition days?
Yeah.
The big whatever.
Then it became a big money business. Well, we got this woman cranked up. She can go all night.